Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Forgive me about that. Anyways, we're back. In case I don't fix that, I don't edit the pause, I'll just start from scratch, inshallah. So we said that we're speaking about the shurut, the conditions of salah, and we have three conditions. And every time we have conditions, we have these three parts: shurut sihha, shurut wujub, and shurut wujub wa sihha. And we will see what that means. شروط الصحة is the conditions that make something right. وهي ما تتوقف عليه صحة الوضوء. So that's the condition which allows this ibadah to be sahih. So the conditions that make this ibadah valid. Okay, this is the condition. وشروط وجوب وهي ما يتوقف عليه وجوب الوضوء. When you have this condition, wudu becomes an obligation. Okay, وشروط صحة ووجوب وهي ما تتوقف عليه صحة الوضوء ووجوبه. So this condition, if this condition is there, that means we now are obliged to have wudu, and it means that your wudu is sahih. So these are the conditions, and we have this in many of the ibadats. Many of the ibadats we have shurut sihha, shurut wujub wa sihha. Okay. So so it says كم هي شروط صحة. So the shurut of sihha that makes wudu valid, the shurut that makes your wudu valid, there are also a few of them. There are three of them. What makes your wudu valid? The first one, at least, well, there's three of them. The first one is al-Islam. One has to be Muslim. So someone who's not a Muslim, he can do wudu and it doesn't become a wudu, because he has to be a Muslim. فلا يصح من كافر ولا يختص هذا الشرط بالوضوء بل هو شرط من جميع العبادات من طهارة وصلاة وزكاة وصوم وحج. So this shart, the شرط صحة, this شرط صحة, which is al-Islam, is a condition that makes your ibadah valid, and it speaks about all the ibadat, not just wudu. It's salah, wa zakah, wa sawm, wal hajj. For the salah, it's got a very interesting. We'll get there, and it's a very interesting variation on the rest of the ibadats. The second shart, the second condition, which makes your wudu valid: عدم الحائل من وصول الماء للبشرة كشمع ودهن متجسم على العضو. I apologize for reading the entire thing. Like I said, I was preparing another topic, so I did not prepare this one. ومنه عماص العين والإمداد بيد الكاتب ونحو ذلك من الأوساخ المتجسدة على الأبدان. عدم الحائل. So there should be no layers between water and your limb and your skin. And he mentions here the different types of things that become a layer between you and water. So he mentions shama. Shama is what in English? When the candle melts, it becomes, what's that thing? So that's the shama. And any form of oil, دهن متجسم على العضو. So if you are using a thick cream, it must be removed, and you must make wudu on top of that. Unless it's, it becomes very difficult to do that, and it's hurtful, and it's not it's not good for your whatever damage you have on your skin. Then it's okay. But if you can, then you should remove that layer. And also the things, anything in the eye that covers your eye, like in the morning, if you have heavy things coming out of your eyes and so on, all of these things must be removed, and you must make wudu without any layer in between. The person who, and he speaks about the person who writes, and he didn't mention here the mechanic. So people who have these jobs that causes their skin to be layered with something, those things have to be removed. And he mentioned like the ink for the person who writes, unless the ink is, if the person is writes all day, if the mechanic works and he has a lot of, his hands they look like oil everywhere. So that doesn't change. It's part of him. If it's part of your hand, if it's part of your job, then it's not necessary to remove. It's not an obligation to remove. And the third one, شرط صحة عدم المنافي للوضوء فلا يصح حال خروج الحدث أو مس ذكر ونحوه وعدم المنافي للوضوء. So the things that invalidate wudu, like touching your private part, like and this is for the male. Okay, we'll go through. I think we'll go through the details. What things will invalidate your wudu. So we're talking about the male. Okay, the dhakar, touching your private part, or if you're in a washroom, you're doing wudu and you pass wind. That invalidates your wudu. So those are the things which invalidates your wudu. So you have to have the opposite. You should not have any of those problems when you perform your wudu. So those are the three shurut al-sihha. Shurut al-wujub, the conditions that make it, that becomes an obligation for you to do al-wudu. There's four of them. دخول وقت الصلاة. دخول وقت الصلاة. When the time of salah is in. So let's say this is between Fajr and Dhuhr right now. Right now it's between Fajr and Dhuhr. It's not wajib for us to have wudu. It's not wajib. It's sunnah. Okay, so you do your wudu with the intention that it is a sunnah. You continue like the hadith says, وَمَنْ اسْتَطَاعَ مِنْكُمْ أَنْ يُطِيلَ غُرَّتَهُ فَلْيَفْعَلْ. And al-itala here, to continue and make it long and continuous. If you can do that, then do it, because it's going to be one of the things that the Prophet ﷺ will recognize his ummah on the Day of Judgment. So right now it's sunnah. The time comes in. The time comes in for wudu. The time comes in for salah. You have to have wudu. Then it becomes wajib. It becomes that's the shart. The shart here, shartu wujub. It becomes wajib for you to have. And in the Maliki, the intention here is very important. I think we will again also discuss it later on. In the Maliki, it's very specific, and it could be cumbersome for some people. But we make a distinction between the wudu which is sunnah and the wudu which is wajib. For instance, right now, like we said, between Fajr and Dhuhr, the wudu is sunnah. If you make the intention of the sunnah, of a wudu which is sunnah, when the time for Dhuhr comes in, you have to make a new wudu, which is the wudu of al-wajib. Okay, it has become wajib for you to do wudu, so now we have to do a new wudu with the intention that it is for the ada'ul wajib, to do the ibadah which is wajib. Unless right now, which is between Fajr and Dhuhr, and it's only a sunnah to have wudu, I make the intention to have a wudu that is wajib. I'm preparing myself for Dhuhr, and I'm making the intention that my wudu is al-wajib. But when the time comes in, it becomes wajib. When the time for Dhuhr, for Salah comes in, it becomes wajib. دخول وقت الصلاة فلا يجب الوضوء قبل دخول الوقت. It's not wajib to do it before the adhan of Dhuhr or the adhan of time. والبلوغ فلا يجب على الصبي. And البلوغ, one has to be puber. Okay, so if the person is not puber, and then we'll inshallah that as well. I think it will come with the topic of salah in the Malikiyah. The time, of course, we know when the person becomes puber, the voice changes. For the male, hair starts to grow, the voice changes and so like that. So before that, the child, he's 8, 9, 10, 11 maybe, and for the woman as well. If they're not puber, it is not wajib. It is not wajib for you to have wudu. And I think it was Sidi Ahmed Zarruq who tells us the story that his grandmother, because he was an orphan, and his grandmother, who is the one who raised him, he would say that his grandmother would make him pray with her without his wudu. So that's because he was not puber. it's good to mention, it's good to prepare the child by saying, did you have wudu? Let's go and make wudu. And if he doesn't, you just leave him because he doesn't have wudu. He doesn't need to have wudu. فلا يجب على الصبي. Number 3. والقدرة على الوضوء. والقدرة. If someone is not able to have wudu, to do wudu because they have problems with their skin, then he does something else. فلا يجب على عاجز كالمريض وعلى فاقد الماء فالمراد بالقادر هو الواجد للماء الذي لا يضره استعماله. So there is different situations. Either the person is sick, they're too old to move, they don't have water, there's no water, so you do tayammum. And even if there's no water, there's no tayammum, we have a very interesting ruling. We'll get there inshallah. What happens if you have no water and nothing to do tayammum with? Then what do we do? Okay. Okay. So that person resources to something else. So if they don't have water, not enough water, or they have problems with their skin, or they're too old and they cannot move and so on, then they can do a tayammum. That is the third one. And the fourth one, وحصول ناقض من نواقض الوضوء فلا يجب على المتوضئ الذي لم ينتقض وضوءه. وحصول ناقض من نواقض الوضوء. And of course, you've done your wudu, and all of a sudden your wudu breaks, and it's time for you to pray. You have to go back and do your wudu again. So حصول ناقض فلا يجب على المتوضئ الذي لم ينتقض وضوءه. فلا يجب على المتوضئ الذي لم ينتقض وضوءه. So it is not wajib. It is not wajib. But as we have, I don't know if, we've spoken about the al-wudu al-mustahab. Al-wudu al-mustahab. You have wudu, it is mustahab to go and do it again when the adhan is called. So I have wudu, and my intention was for the dhuhr. Right now I have my wudu, alhamdulillah. And I made the intention that it is for fard. It's not just sunniyah to wudu. I have made the intention that it is. So when the adhan is called, I don't have to do wudu again. But it is mustahab. It is mustahab. So the time is in, the time that the adhan is called, and it's time for dhuhr. And I didn't lose my wudu. That's what it's saying here. I didn't lose my wudu, so it is not wajib. It's only sunnah. That's what it's saying here. So these are shurut al-wujub. So we just finished shurut al-sihha. Shurut al-sihha, the conditions that make your wudu valid. And this is the shurut that makes it an obligation for you to have wudu. And then finally, the third one is كم هي شروط الصحة والوجوب معا. كم هي شروط الصحة والوجوب معا. So what are these conditions that include both validity and the obligation to do it? And what are they? There are 4 of them. Al-aql. So one is mentally conscious and capable and able. Al-aqlu فلا يجب الوضوء على ولا يصح من مجنون. Someone who is not with himself, like someone who's not mentally together. That's the easiest and best way to put it. Someone who's not mentally sane, healthy. He's majnoon, or he has a temporary insanity. من مجنون حال جنونه ومن مصروع حال صرعه. Or someone who has a fit, whatever it is. People go through certain problems like mental and physical fits. So that person is not obliged to do anything, in fact, not just wudu, but anything else. The second one, الخلو من دم الحيض والنفاس بالنسبة للمرأة فلا يجب ولا يصح من الحائض والنفساء. So for a woman, this is for a woman who goes through her menses, or the blood that comes after she delivers. That initial blood that comes after she delivers, she does not pray, she does not pray and does not have to do wudu. الخلو من دم الحيض, دم الحيض. So she should not be in that state of الحيض والنفاس for the woman. فلا يجب ولا يصح من الحائض والنفس. So it's not an obligation, and the wudu is not even valid. Salam alaikum Sidi Ahmed, we were waiting for you. So this is the second one. The third one من شروط الصحة والوجوب وجود ما يكفي من الماء المطلق فلا يجب ولا يصح من وجد ماء قليل يكفيه. So you have to have, so let's say you're somewhere, you're camping, and these are going to be discussed when we speak about al-tayammum. So it becomes wajib to do wudu if you have enough water, if water is sufficient and it's abundant. But if it's not abundant, it's very little. Even if you have water to drink, but it's not enough for you to make wudu or to cook with, not enough water to cook with, and you have enough water to make wudu, you don't have to make water. You don't have to make wudu with water. Okay, it's not wajib. It's not wajib. You can go ahead and do it. You can go ahead and do it, but it's not wajib. Now you should, save your water for the other things that you are also that are an essential, that are essential for you. فلا يجب ولا يصح. Oh, so it's not even صحيح. It's not صحيح. من وجد ماء قليل لا يكفيه. One should not, so I apologize, one should not use that water for wudu. If you just have enough water for drinking and eating, and it's just a little bit of water, it's not sahih. It will not be permissible for you to have wudu with that little bit of water. It should be used for the essential things. فلو غسل بعض الأعضاء بما وجده من الماء فعمله باطل ولا يصح أن يكون وضوءا. Obviously, because that water is so little that you start making your wudu and all of a sudden you have not completed. So you should not make wudu. You should do something else. You see, in the first instance, it's because your food and drink is essential, and you should not be using it for something else except for the essential. In the second instance, is if you start with a little bit of water, it will not allow you to complete al-wudu. It's invalid. That wudu has not been complete. So don't make wudu with that. It's not wajib, it's not, and it will not be sufficient. The fourth one, شروط الصحة والوجوب عدم النوم والغفلة فلا يجب على نائم ولا غافل ولا يصح منها لعدم النية إلا إذ لا نية لنائم ولا غافل أو حال نوم الغفلة. النوم والغفلة. النوم, sleep, of course. والغفلة is also sleeping, but someone who has not done it consciously. أو حال نوم الغفلة. ولا غافل أو حال نوم الغفلة. So, and in the Maliki as well, we know the hadith where the companions were in the masjid, and between Maghrib and Isha they're waiting for Salah, and they're sleeping, they're doing the dozing off, okay, but they're sitting. Because they're sitting, there's no they would not be able to pass air. So that's a long discussion, but in the Malikiya does not constitute a proof for the person who sleeps while sitting down that he did not lose his wudu. For the Malikiya, he has lost his wudu. If the sleep is deep, okay, deep enough, it doesn't matter how he is sleeping, he loses his wudu, because the illah in the Malikiya is the fact that a person has lost consciousness. It's not because he did not pass wind. Passing wind is not the cause for losing your wudu. The cause for losing your wudu is that you have gone asleep. That's why it's very clear here. عند النوم والغفلة خلاص, he's gone. He's lost conscious in his deep sleep, or in his sleep, even in his short sleep. Okay, whatever level of sleep it is. That's the sleep. The sleep is the illah for losing al-wudu. So these are شروط الصحة والوجوب. So if these things happen, then you have to do, then it becomes an obligation to have wudu. And if you don't have it, then you don't do wudu, or you lose your wudu. نواقض الوضوء. And inshallah, where are we at right now? It's already 25 minutes, 26 minutes. We'll quickly introduce the following topic, and then inshallah we will stop here bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Let's see if that's 20 minutes. Okay, we have 5 more minutes. We are able to start into the next topic. Nawaqid al-wudu, the things which invalidate your wudu. ما هو الناقض? What is it? What is this thing which we call, how do we define, what is the definition of الناقض? هو ما ينقض الوضوء بنفسه. It's the thing that invalidates wudu. أو ما كان مؤديا إلى ما ينقض الوضوء, or the things that lead you towards losing your wudu. إلى كم قسم تنقسم النواقض وكم عددها وما هي? How many types are there, and how many, each of those types, how many are there, and what are they? النواقض سبعة, there are 7. سبعة عشر, 17. 17 things will break your wudu. And those 17 are broken into 3 sub categories. The first one is ahdath, the things that happen, like going to the washroom, losing or passing wind. The second one is asbab, the causes. It could be beyond the things that that we've mentioned. The first one, وغيرهما, and there's another category that is beyond the first and the second one. So let's go through them very quickly, inshallah, perhaps in 5 minutes. الأحداث وهي ثمانية, the things that are causing you to lose your wudu, and they are the call it incidentals or whatever you want. الريح, passing wind. الغائط, going to the washroom, number 1 and number 2. الغائط والبول, feces and urine. والمذي, المذي is the sperm, okay, or the fluid that comes from the private part upon they call it اللذة الكبرى العظمى. اللذة الكبرى, when one has what's that word? I forget those fancy words. So al-madhi is when one has sexual intercourse with one's spouse, or let's say in a dream, a person has a wet dream. That's the sperm, the madhi. Wal-wadi, al-bawl wal-madhi wal-wadi. How come there's no madhi? Oh, sorry, there is madhi. So al-bawl wal-madhi. Al-madhi is what comes before, with sexual pleasure. There hasn't been any conclusion in the sexual pleasure. Al-madhi is the fluid that comes before that. Okay, so one starts into playing with one's spouse, and he did not have the conclusion in that sexual pleasure. That fluid is al-madhi. So al-maniyu. Okay, very interesting. Okay, let me repeat everything from scratch. Okay, I apologize. Let me repeat everything from scratch. So الريح, which is passing wind. الغائط, going to the washroom, number 1, number 2. And I said earlier المني, the sperm. Erase that, because that requires ghusl. We all agree upon that. But we are speaking about al-madhyu. Al-madhyu is the one that comes before the sperm comes. Wal-wadyu. Al-wadyu is the problem that the person has when you go to the washroom. You do number 1 and number 2, but there's still a fluid that comes out. Sometimes it comes out before, sometimes it comes before and after. Sometimes it's after. You're going to the washroom, you've done your thing, you've done your wudu, but then there is a fluid that comes out after that. It's part of your, it's just part of it. One second, please. والمني بغير لذة معتادة. Okay, so now the sperm, but this is not from sexual intercourse, not from having that intimate intercourse with your spouse. The sperm came out, but it's not out of, you did not induce it. That only requires al-wudu. It does not require ghusl. the one that is induced through your own action, that requires ghusl. This one only requires al-wudu. والهادي, I forget what that is, I'll go back to it inshallah. ودم الاستحاضة, الاستحاضة, not al-hayd. Al-istihada is when the woman has an elongated state of menses. So she goes through her normal phase of like 5 or 6 or 7 days, 2 days, 10 days, whatever it is, 5 or 6 days of al-hayd, and after that she goes into another phase which is al-istihada. There's like beyond her normal phase of menses. That phase is called al-istihada. She does not have to do ghusl for that, for salah. Okay, she knows. We'll discuss this inshallah when we come to the topic of al-istihada. That in that phase, the woman has to have wudu every time she prays. So in her state of al-istihada, she has broken her wudu, only her wudu, not her. She doesn't have to do ghusl for that. والستة الأولى مشتركة بين الذكر والأنثى. The sixth one that we have mentioned is something which pertains to both male and female. So الريح الغائض البول المذي الودي والمني. So anyways, those are obviously, we know which one is not. والأخيران الهادي, I guess, so that's why that's not come to mind. الأخيران, the الهادي والاستحاضة, that's for the woman. Inshallah, I'll come back next week and we will, or tomorrow, we will remember what al-hadi means, inshallah. وكلها من القبل إلا الريح والغائط فمن الدبر. And this is just like a technical explanation that all of these things that we've mentioned are that they come out from the front, except for passing the wind and the feces that The second one, so we've gone beyond the 25 minutes. We have 2 more things. Let's just finish them. So the second one, أسباب نواقض الوضوء. So the الأحداث are the events, the incidents that causes wudu to be invalidated. Well, asbab, they're also incidents, and there are 7 of them. These incidents are sleeping. Okay, someone sleeps. So again, the illah here in the Malikiya is simply going to sleep. Was-sukru is someone, may Allah protect us for all of us, drinking and becoming drunk. Wal-ighma'u, falling unconscious. Wal-jununu, becoming insane, and that could be temporary, or it could be like continuous. May Allah protect us. Wal-lamsu, al-lamsu is to touch your private part. Wal-qublah, and I think we will speak about this, al-qublah. وَمَسُّ الذَّكَرَ, al-qublah is to kiss, and exactly how, where, and all that, that's what counts here. وَمَسُّ الذَّكَرَ, وَمَسُّ الذَّكَرَ, al-lamsu here, al-lamsu is touching the opposite sex. And here we have details we will speak about inshallah. Wal-qubla, the kissing. وَمَسُّ الذَّكَرَ, and touching the male private part. Notice here, that's all it's saying. It is not talking about touching the anus, excuse the language, or touching a woman touching her private part. It's speaking about the male private part, only the male. Okay, very interesting here, and they are very meticulous. The way that these books are prepared and put together, they're very, very meticulous. You go to any book and you'll find, in the Maliki book, you'll find that this is al-lamsu, so touching the opposite sex, and we'll go into the details. Wal-qubla, the kissing. Wa-massu dhakar, and touching the male's private part. A person's touching his male private part, and we're talking about al-dhakar, not al-unthayayn. So it's, again, apologize for the detailed description. So that we're talking about the penis and not the testicles. Al-dhakar wal-unthayayn, no, just the dhakar. And the third one, wa-ghayrihima, these are not incidentals, okay? These are not events or things that happen. This is something totally out, miscellaneous. وغيرهما وهما اثنان. There's two things. الشك والعياذ بالله. الشك is not talking about الشك في الدين. Not talking about having doubt about your religion. We're talking about doubt in your wudu. And this is also something which I will want to cover tomorrow. I think we do cover this. We do cover it in detail later on. Yes, it's covered later on in detail, inshallah. So not tomorrow. So doubting whether you have wudu or not. Okay, doubting whether you have wudu, that breaks your wudu. Okay, and we are different from the other schools in this topic. والردة والعياذ بالله, one person, أعوذ بالله, leaves Islam and comes back. He has to have, it breaks his wudu. Comes back, he has to. There's the differences of opinion whether it's wudu and ghusl. والعياذ بالله. So الشك والردة. الشك is about your wudu, whether you have done it or not. والردة, whether أعوذ بالله, someone leaves and comes back to Islam again. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. جزاكم الله خير. بارك الله فيكم. I think it was